Welcome back to Of Soul, the place where real stories find a voice, and where the smallest acts of kindness often reveal the greatest truths about the human heart. If you're new here, consider joining our growing family by subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss a story that just might touch your soul. Today's story is one that reminds us how destiny often works quietly in the background, weaving lives together in ways we never expect. This is a journey about compassion, gratitude, and the surprising ways love can begin. So settle in and let your heart follow the path of this remarkable true-to-life tale. Our story begins on an ordinary, chilly autumn evening at St. Auburn's Hospital, a place where exhaustion lived just as easily as hope. The fluorescent lights hummed softly in the parking lot, reflecting off rows of cars belonging to nurses, doctors, and staff who had just finished long shifts inside the hospital's walls. The air had that unmistakable bite of early winter, a sharpness that made every breath visible. Though most staff hurried to their cars, eager to escape the cold and return home, one person lingered behind, moving slowly through the nearly empty lot. His name was Daniel Hartman, a 32-year-old maintenance technician, known around the hospital for being calm, reliable, and endlessly patient. Daniel was the sort of person who never rushed, not because he was slow, but because he believed everything deserved attention and intention. Around him, coworkers often joked that he had an old soul, one that carried kindness like a quiet but ever-present flame. He enjoyed his work, even on long days like this one, because fixing things gave him a sense of purpose. Whether it was replacing flickering lights, repairing worn-out gurneys, or troubleshooting malfunctioning hospital doors, he liked knowing he could make someone's day a little easier. Tonight, he was staying late again. He didn't mind. The extra hours helped him save for the modest home he one day hoped to buy. But beyond that, he knew the hospital never truly slept, and neither could those who kept it running. After finishing paperwork in his workshop, Daniel stepped outside, stretching his stiff shoulders and preparing to head home. The parking lot was almost empty, the sky a deep navy shade sprinkled with stars, and his breath came out in steady, foggy clouds. Just as he reached his car, he heard a frustrated sigh from across the lot. It wasn't loud, but it carried the unmistakable weight of someone at the end of their rope. He turned toward the sound, spotting a woman standing beside a silver sedan with its hood propped open. She wore scrubs under a thick jacket, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail that had clearly survived a long shift. Even from a distance, Daniel could sense the exhaustion radiating from her. He recognized her, at least vaguely. She was a nurse he had seen around before. Her name tag always read Nurse L. Rivera. She was known for her steady hands, warm smile, and gentle presence, even when patients were at their worst. Her co-workers often described her as someone with a heart big enough to carry everyone else's pain. But tonight, her shoulders sagged, her expression weary, and her car very clearly refused to cooperate. Daniel paused only a second before walking over. He approached softly so he wouldn't startle her. "Evening," he said kindly. "Everything all right?" She looked up with tired eyes, then managed a small, embarrassed smile. "Oh, hi, I'm sorry I didn't even see you there. No, not really. My car won't start, and I think the battery might be dying. I'm supposed to be home already. My daughter's staying with my sister, and it's been such a long day." Daniel nodded, understanding more from her tone than her words. "Can I take a look?" "Oh, I don't want to bother you," she said, brushing her hair back with a cold hand. "I know everyone's trying to get home. I'm sure I can call a tow truck or something. Towing companies are usually slow this time of night," he replied. And expensive. Let me see if I can help first." She hesitated, then stepped aside gratefully. "Thank you, really." For the next 20 minutes, Daniel examined the engine, checked the battery connections, and tested the spark. He worked efficiently, his movements calm and practiced. Nurse Rivera watched him, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Every so often, she apologized or offered to help, and every time he reassured her gently that he didn't mind. Eventually, he tightened one last connection, then closed the hood. "Try the ignition now," he instructed. She slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the car sputtered before finally roaring to life. Her relief was immediate and overwhelming. She leaned out the window, eyes shining with gratitude. "Oh my goodness, you fixed it. I can't believe it. Thank you. Thank you so much." Daniel shrugged modestly. "Just a loose battery cable. It happens. You just saved my night," she said. "Really? I've been on shift for 12 hours straight. I didn't have it in me to deal with this." Her voice trembled slightly, and Daniel realized just how tired she really was. He offered a warm smile. "Get home safe, and have that cable checked properly soon. It's an easy fix, but you don't want it acting up again." She nodded quickly, then paused. "I'm Lena, by the way. Lena Rivera, Daniel," he replied. "Happy to help." She watched him walk back to his car, something thoughtful lingering in her expression. As she drove away, she kept glancing at him in her rear-view mirror, wondering why someone who barely knew her cared enough to stay late just to help. It stayed with her the entire ride home, even more so when she slipped quietly into her sister's house and saw her young daughter sleeping peacefully on the couch. The next morning, after a few hours of sleep, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to express her gratitude properly. She knew people helped each other all the time, but there was something different about the way Daniel had stepped in. He didn't help because he felt obligated or because someone asked. He simply saw a need and filled it without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. At the hospital cafeteria later that afternoon, she bought a cup of hot coffee and a small box of pastries. She asked one of the volunteers where she might find the maintenance team's workshop. The volunteer pointed her down a hallway and told her Daniel would likely be there, repairing equipment between calls. As she approached, she heard soft clanking and the faint hum of tools. She knocked lightly on the open door. Daniel looked up from a cart he was fixing. "Oh, Nurse Rivera," he said with gentle surprise. "Everything okay with the car?" "Yes, perfectly fine," she answered. "Actually, I just wanted to bring you this as a thank you. I know it's small, but your kindness meant a lot to me." She handed him the coffee and pastries. Daniel blinked, clearly unused to being thanked so earnestly. He rubbed the back of his neck, a shy smile spreading across his face. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she replied softly, "but I wanted to." He accepted them, touched by the gesture. Their eyes held for a moment longer than either expected. Then they both looked away, smiling awkwardly. Over the next few days, they exchanged more small conversations, a greeting in the hallway, a quick laugh in the cafeteria line, a friendly wave when they passed each other during shift changes. Each interaction was brief, yet meaningful, little threads weaving quietly between them. Soon, those threads became conversations. Conversations turned into shared lunches. Shared lunches turned into walks through the hospital garden during breaks. And in those quiet moments, they discovered how effortlessly their worlds aligned. Daniel learned that Lena had been a nurse for nearly 10 years, and that she had raised her daughter, Mia, on her own since she was a baby. He learned she loved sunflowers, gentle music, and late night baking with me on her days off. Lena learned that Daniel had spent most of his life fixing things, not just at the hospital, but for his elderly neighbors, struggling friends, and anyone who needed an extra hand. He had a quiet philosophy: the world was kinder when people stepped up for each other. Their connection deepened naturally, without pressure or expectation. What began as a simple act of kindness slowly grew roots into something neither saw coming. One evening, weeks after their friendship had begun, Daniel found a handwritten note taped to his locker. The handwriting was neat, slightly looping. "Thank you for being the kind of person who reminds others that goodness still exists. I'm glad I met you." Lena attached to it was a small chocolate bar. Daniel smiled as he read the note twice, then 3 times. Something warm bloomed in his chest, and he realized he didn't want to ignore the feelings he'd been quietly harboring. That weekend, he asked her if she'd like to meet outside the hospital, just the two of them. Lena hesitated briefly, worried about mixing personal life and work, worried about how dating might change things. But when she looked into Daniel's gentle, sincere eyes, the hesitation softened into certainty. "Yes," she said quietly, "I'd like that." Their first date was simple: coffee at a small cafe near the river. They talked until the sun set and the city lights shimmered on the water. Daniel asked about her dreams, and Lena laughed at how easily he made her feel seen, safe, and understood. It was a comfort she hadn't expected, especially after years of guarding her heart. As weeks turned into months, their relationship blossomed into something steady and beautiful. Daniel quickly became a presence in Mia's life too, never pushing, always respectful, always patient. Mia adored him, especially when he helped her build things from scratch: birdhouses, wooden puzzles, even a tiny bookshelf for her room. He taught her how to hold a hammer safely, and always praised her creativity. Lena watched them together one evening, the two sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, laughing as they accidentally glued their fingers together while crafting. In that moment, tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that this gentle man who had once stayed late in a cold parking lot to fix her car had quietly become part of her heart. 1 year after that night, Daniel brought Lena back to the same hospital parking lot. It was a cool evening again, the same hum of fluorescent lights, the same rows of cars. He led her to the spot where he had found her struggling beside her broken-down sedan. She laughed softly. "Why are we here? You're not planning to fix my car again, are you?" Daniel smiled, took her hands and said, "No, I just wanted to remind us where everything began." Then he knelt down, pulled out a small velvet box, and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, glowing softly under the streetlights. "Lena Rivera," he said, voice steady but full of emotion. "Thank you for letting me into your life, for trusting me with your heart, and for giving me a chance to love you and Mia. I want to continue being someone you can rely on, someone who shows up for you, not just on nights when your car won't start, but every day after. Will you marry me?" Lena's breath caught in her chest. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, of course I will." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she pulled him into a warm embrace. In that cold parking lot, under the soft glow of the lights, their love story found its beginning and its next chapter all at once. Months later, surrounded by close friends, hospital staff, and family, Lena and Daniel exchanged vows in a small garden ceremony. Mia stood proudly beside them as the flower girl, cheering louder than anyone when they kissed for the first time as husband and wife. Sometimes destiny doesn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic moments. Sometimes it comes quietly, disguised as inconvenience, exhaustion, or a simple loose battery cable. Sometimes the universe nudges two people together through the smallest acts of kindness, acts that end up shaping the rest of their lives. In the end, one late night act of help sparked gratitude, that gratitude sparked friendship, that friendship sparked love, and that love unfolded into a beautiful story of family, commitment, and fate. Because sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with perfection. They begin on the coldest nights, in the simplest places, between two people who were meant to find each other all along. Thank you for listening to this heartwarming story brought to you by Of Soul. If it touched you, inspired you, or reminded you of someone in your life, consider sharing it with someone who might need a little hope today. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time for another story crafted just for the soul. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.